Hey people, today I'd like to go over an upcoming game called the Tiny Combat Arena by MicroProse. They graciously gave me an early access copy to take a look at. Ever since the initial announcement, I was really curious to see what this game is about. So let's have a look. And we're in. Now we are greeted with a nice little message and any new updates that are available, plus a first-time control setup, which is really nice, although I'm not sure if it's actually working very well right now. Well, as far as the settings go, everything is very much basic. There isn't too much that you can play around with, but I went ahead and just maximized everything. The resolution isn't exactly revolutionary, so my FPS was hovering 100 FPS and above at all times. And as far as game settings go, you can play around with how realistic you would like it to be. Unlimited fuel, guns, ammo, yada yada yada. And the audio is also fairly straightforward. The controls section is pretty much where you're going to be spending most of your time setting up, and this is where you can set up your curvatures and how your mouse is going to interact. Here we can customize our controls, and you can see that we are using the Thrustmaster, Warthog, HOTAS, joystick throttle, and the TPR rudders. However, the game does support mouse and keyboard control, along with other game controllers. The list of which I do not have, but I'm sure they're going to list it later on. And as you can see, the calibration is fairly straightforward. You have some dead zones and sensitivities that you can set up, and it's really not a big problem. Now, the meat and bones of setting up your stuff is going to be in the weapons section. As you can see, I'm setting up my joystick right now. And under the actions, there's really not that much. You won't even need to slew your sensors to lock on things with radar, and everything is very much simplified here. So a couple of buttons and you're pretty much set. And all of this is really good news for anybody that has a joystick that doesn't really have a whole lot of buttons, hats, and switches. And as far as getting into the game, it's fairly quick. I can do a free flight, and we only have the one map in this version. I don't know if that's just for the early access or if they're gonna probably add more maps later on. And yeah, just free flight. There's a couple more modes we're going to take a look at in a second, and we're going to do it in the air start, but you can do from the ground as well if you'd like. There are some airfields that are there, but the maps are fairly small. It is a tiny combat arena. One thing that I'm very happy about right off the bat is that track IR is fully supported. But one thing I did notice was that I couldn't quite look directly behind me. I don't know if my track layer wasn't set up right because I just redid everything, or if that's just a game limitation. Now, if you already played DCS, a lot of this will make a whole lot of sense to you. I mean, you can see at the very bottom there are already a couple of things that you will definitely recognize. On the bottom left-hand corner, you will notice a DCS style little control section in yellow. Next to it is the radar warning receiver, and on the far right you have the radar screen, which again, you will not be manually manipulating. There's only one single lock and unlock button, so that will just show you what you currently have locked up. Now, the plane that we're currently flying is the Harrier, and it is the only aircraft that is available in this early access. And because this is a Harrier, you can move the nozzles, which is very neat. And that came in very handy when I was trying to do my very first landing, as I lost a lot of speed here and I started dropping like a rock. So as soon as I saw that vertical drop, I go ahead and deployed that nozzle straight down, and yeah, I was really close. But it works, you know, it works. And I would like to say that my second attempt was a little bit better, but I found that she gets a little bit squirmy, so it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I mean, once you have it, you have it. I think I actually found DCS to be a little bit simpler, but then again, you kind of follow a lot more rules there, so. And touchdown, except then this happens. I'm still not sure if that was me or not.
Another happy landing.
And takeoff should be easier than landings, right? Alright, let's take a look at some dogfights. I went ahead and set up a dogfight with missiles, just heaters, against 4 MiG-21s. Thankfully, you can set up a couple of friendlies. These are F5s to help you out so you're not completely outmatched. Here I wanted to see just how off-board you can really shoot these AIM-9Ls, and I was quite surprised. Chaff and flares are a thing in this game, so don't expect an AIM-9 to be a god-tier weapon here. They will miss and go for the flares. Now, as far as loadouts go, you can choose air superiority, and just as expected, you do get a few new toys. So the first thing you're going to get is an AIM-82B, then an AIM-7E, and finally, of course, the AIM-9L. And as expected, the AIM-7 is pretty dope. As far as guns go, they are pretty effective, and if you lock a guy up, you do get a nice little pipper that is fairly accurate, and it is pretty pleasing to shoot someone down. Now, the AIM-82B is something I've never heard of before, so I had to look this up, but supposedly it was a short-range air missile designed by the Air Force, which was intended to replace the AIM-9 Sidewinder, and it shows. Now, in case you did want to check out what's what, they did include a database that will let you take a look at what everything is inside of the game. From the aircraft to the air defenses, munitions, yada yada, it's all there. Now, I had a pretty good idea of what the air combat was like, so now it was time to check out the air-to-ground munitions. And I tested out the Mark 21st against structures. The results were pretty positive. Now, you can set up air defenses such as shilkas, and these things are no joke. I mean, they are pretty much as deadly as you remember from DCS. And trying to take these things out with bombs is gonna take some brass balls, because trying to go head on with these rounds, it gets pretty interesting, that's for sure. Now, as far as iron bombs go, such as the Mark 83 here, they work perfectly fine as long as you're accurate. The first bomb is going to hit the mark and it's going to do its job, but the second one is going to miss by a smidge, and that really didn't destroy the structure, so you kind of have to be accurate. Next up, I naturally went ahead and tested out the guns against the ground targets to see its effectiveness. Lastly, I went ahead and checked out the arena demo. Now, this is more of like a campaign-ish type of thing, where you have your airfield, your forces, they're flying out, and they're going to try and destroy and take out enemy armor that's advancing, while your friendly armor is advancing. The purpose here is to try and take over the airfields until your team wins. So when I saw this large column of BTRs heading towards my friendlies, I figured, you know what, Mark 20s, those sound like a perfect weapon to stop these people in their tracks. And, well, your results may vary. Now, your friendly AI aircraft will do their jobs and they will shoot down the enemy aircraft, but they're kind of slow about it, and they will take on heavy losses while they do so. So I found it very effective to try and basically clear the airspace out myself before continuing on with the ground units. The guns are always so much more satisfying. Now, I found out the hard way that when taking care of certain types of buildings like these ones, the Mark 20s are not a god tier weapon. And it looks like you're gonna need to use different type of strategy in order to take care of different types of structures, which is nice. Not against that at all. And that's where the Mark 83s come into play. Well, without any bombs left, I still needed to take care of these things. I figured, why not try the guns? So at this stage, I was heading home to try and rearm, but with 100 gun rounds left, I figured, how many rounds will I need to take care of a few BTRs? It does appear that the gun does slightly auto-lock on ground targets. Now, this was all fun and games, and I truly was having a blast, but one thing you do have to remember is that you should check your fuel gauge, because there is no bingo warning. For those interested, Tiny Combat Arena is going to be out on Steam on the 22nd of February, so in just a few days. I would like to thank MicroProse for giving me the opportunity to take a look at this game in the early access stage. So how do I personally feel about this? I think it's a fun little game. It's like not quite simulation, but it's not quite like War Thunder-esque, you know, it's somewhere smack in the middle. If you're bored, you got nothing else to do, you don't really have an extensive HOTAS, this is a fun, silly little game to play around with. I don't know for certain just how extensive it's going to be. The name is Tiny Combat Arena, so as long as they add a fair amount of content and, you know, a certain amount of planes, it could very well be worth it. I don't know exactly what the price is going to be later on, or if you know, you can put it down in the comments down below. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.